Good afternoon, members. Procedural announcements pursuant to Section 92-3.7 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes. This meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda, either in person in the council chamber or remotely. As both English and Hawaiian are official languages of the state of Hawaii, pursuant to Article 15, Section 4 of the Hawaii State Constitution and Section 1-13 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes, members of the public may testify in either language. For oral testimonies offered in Olelo, Hawaii, additional time as may be necessary will be allowed for the testifier to provide English translation of their testimony. Before testifying, each person shall state their full name and the agenda item they are testifying on. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 3-minute presentation. For registered in-person testifiers, when your name is called, please proceed to the podium and begin by stating your name and the item you'll be speaking on. When I call for anyone who has not registered to speak in person, please line up to the right of the podium. And when it is your turn, proceed to the podium, begin by stating your name and the items you'll be speaking on. For persons who have registered to testify remotely by video conference or phone, when your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. When I call for anyone else standing by remotely, please utilize the Zoom raise hand button to indicate your desire to speak. For those joining us by telephone only, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. The following are some friendly hints and reminders. Video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you're watching the proceeding on Olelo, please mute your television when you're called to testify. When your timer on the screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. For those who are joining us by telephone only, I will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When your number is called, press *6 to unmute when prompted. HRS Section 92-3.7 requires all votes at remote meetings to be conducted by a roll call unless unanimous. Therefore, I will first call for objections, and if there are any, I will call for a roll call vote. For those council members participating outside the council chamber in accordance with HRS Section 92-3.7, the meeting will automatically recess if we lose audiovisual contact with you and cannot reconvene until we reestablish contact. Therefore, please announce beforehand if you will be voluntarily signing out of the meeting. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and telephone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off all cell phones for the duration of the meeting. Mr. Clerk, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Here.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Here.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
Here.
Councilmember Nishimoto? Councilmember Okimoto?
Present.
Councilmember Talba? Here. Councilmember Tupola? Excused. Councilmember Wire?
Here.
Chair Waters?
Here.
Mr. Chair, 8 members are present, 1 member is absent.
Thank you. The following council members are present in council chambers. Council members Cordero, Dos Santos Tam, Kia Aina, Nishimoto, Okimoto, Talba, and Wire. Also present in the council chamber are legislative branch staff, members of the city administration, media representatives, and a special duty police officer. Moving to the order of the day, new business, Vice Chair Wire.
I move that Resolution 2586 be adopted. Second.
Councilmember Nishimoto for the second.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Vice Chair Wire for the explanation.
Initiating amendments to the revised charter of the City and County of Honolulu 1973, amended 2017 edition as amended pursuant to the Mayor's Executive Reorganization Authority relating to the Office of Housing, Department of Community Services, Department of Planning and Permitting, Department of Land Management, and Department of Budget and Fiscal Services.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to amend? Vice Chair Wire.
I move that Resolution 2586 be amended to the posted FD1.
Councilmember Nishimoto for the second.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Vice Chair Wire for the explanation of the amendment.
The FD1 makes the amendments as set forth in Communication MM-62.
Thank you so much. The Office of Housing will now be providing a brief presentation, which also is available online as Communication MM-64. Aloha and welcome. Please proceed.
Aloha. Thank you very much, Chair Waters. Aloha, council members. Kevin Auger, I'm the Executive Director of the Mayor's Office of Housing. The purpose of the presentation today is to review the proposed reorganization of the city's housing functions in the Department of Housing, proposed Department of Housing and Land Management. But before we do so, I'd like to take an opportunity to thank the council and acknowledge your efforts to help fight this critical issue facing our city. And you know, the work that we've been doing with you and your staffs over the last several months has been truly gratifying, and it's been an extremely collaborative effort, and we're grateful for that. And I just wanted to acknowledge that before proceeding. The Department of Housing and Community Development was disbanded in 1998. And since that time, the city has not really had centralized housing functions in the county. In fact, when the mayor came to office, he was surprised that there was only one person in the mayor's office of housing that was managing and coordinating both housing functions and homeless functions. In his State of the City speech in 2023, the mayor announced that he would be exploring potential ways to reorganize the city's housing functions. The Office of Housing led an effort and a working group to review current housing functions and better ways that we might be able to organize that. That working group included local developers, it included department members, it included council members, and it included a housing or a human resources expert at the time. The takeaway from the working group was that it would make a lot of sense to create a dichotomy between affordable housing functions in the city and homeless functions and supportive services in the city. And the thinking around that was that the expertise required to execute complex land and affordable housing transactions was completely different than the social service skills required to care for and affect homeless services, the wraparound services that are required, and to care for our most vulnerable populations. So as a part of that, the Office of Housing presented a proposal to the mayor to do just that, which was to split those functions. That proposal was made at the end of 2023. During the mayor's State of the City address in 2024, he announced that we would be forming a Department of Housing and Land Management. The Department of Housing and Land Management will have 6 distinct divisions. It'll have a housing development division, a housing finance division, a housing policy division, a land transactions division, a housing property and asset management division, and a conservation office to manage the Clean Water and Natural Lands funds. The existing Department of Land Management currently has 34 approved positions. 23 of those are filled. There are 2 distinct divisions, the Asset Development Division and the Asset Management Division. After reviewing the potential functions that we could bring into and available positions that we could merge into the Department of Land Management, and working with directors of the affected departments, it was a decision that was made to merge the Mayor's Office of Housing, which currently has 5 positions, and you can see those on your page in green. The Department of Planning and Permitting had 6 positions that were available but were not filled. They hadn't been created or filled, so they're currently vacant. And those, I think they were originally stood up to create a housing function within the Department of Planning and Permitting, but it was felt they'd be better utilized, merged into this new proposed Department of Housing and Land Management. And then there's 2 positions at the Department of Community Services that currently manage the Affordable Housing Fund. Those positions would also be merged into the Finance Division for the Department of Housing and Land Management. In addition, there were 4 new proposed positions. Those were primarily supportive positions, administrative roles, et cetera, for the new divisions that we would be establishing. However, those 4 new positions that we're requesting we weren't able to get those into the 2026 fiscal year budget process, unfortunately, so we'll come back and make that ask again next year. So if we look at the new divisions, the importance of this structure is the synergies that are created. We have a land transactions team that will go out and use general obligation bonds, for instance, to buy land and buildings. We have a housing development team that will work with development partners. As you know, we recently issued a series of RFQs seeking development partners for several city properties that had been in our inventory, some for decades. We have a housing finance division that will work with development partners to seek new ways to finance those developments. We have a housing policy division, which is essentially the Mayor's Office of Housing that will be incorporated into the new platform, and then a housing property and asset management division. In total, there are 51 positions that are proposed. 4 of those are new that did not make the budget cycle, as we mentioned, and 5 of those would be appointed positions, including an executive for housing, which is basically the role that I currently occupy, which is an appointed position by the mayor by charter. And I know Councilmember DeSantis Tam had some questions about the qualifications for that position, and we agreed to work together to review that as part of the potential charter amendment. But that synergy, I can't call out how important that is to have the teams working together that can really address affordable housing. This structure is very similar to the structure that's currently used or utilized at the HHFDC. But more importantly, I've been in this business for next year will be my 40th year, 4th decade. And in the private sector, this is very typical of what we would see for most development operator, owner, managing entities for the most part. Just some brief slides that we'll review so council can understand exactly where these positions are being proposed within the structure. So if we turn to the first page, the existing administration division, we were proposing 2 new positions, one an administrative specialist that would assist the department's current ASO, and then an executive assistant 2. In the proposed housing development division, we were seeking 1 additional secretary. In the housing finance division, this is where most of the currently unfilled positions from DPP will be populated, so we can stand up this new division. This is really critical to us. As I think I've explained in the past, we have very limited financing options available to us at the city. We have general obligation bonds. We have the Affordable Housing Fund, and you'll see, as you see in blue at the bottom, those positions coming from DCS will help to support that function. We have the private activity bond function, which is roughly about $140 million a year that we work with the HHFDC to combine low-income housing tax credits. But we need to seek additional new funding opportunities so we can get beyond LIHTC-only finance transactions. And Councilmember Kia Aina, I think I'd like to point out that position LU 23-06, that planner position, the position description for that particular position focuses highly on federal funding. We had a great experience working with the governor's office and securing the FDA grant last summer, and felt that it was really important that we have a position that's focused on that going forward. In the housing policy division, again, these are primarily, all of these positions are green, are currently occupied by the Office of Housing, so they're simply transferred into this department. And then in the land transactions division, to help beef up that group, we included the senior land agent, which is basically a SR 28 in that division from one of the positions that was coming over from DPP, or Department of Planning and Permitting. In the asset management division, again, we had one very junior role. It was an office assistant. Throughout this process, we tried to be very cognizant about not growing government. We didn't want to create lots of new positions. We can do that over time as we continue to grow, and hopefully we'll be successful. And then it was suggested to us by HR, because the conservation team was so small, that we stand that up as an office as opposed to a division, and that would be embedded in the administrative function above. So if you turn to This next page, it shows an alignment of all of the positions in the proposed Department of Housing and Land Management. And we've color-coded that so you could see exactly where positions were coming from and where they were being embedded in the platform. On the final page of our presentation, we have well, there's 2 pages. We show how the Office of Land Management and the Mayor's Office of Housing fit within the organization structure of the county. And essentially, we have a new Department of Land Management that will be stood up on the last page, and the Mayor's Office of Housing goes away. You've asked me to be brief. If I've gone too quickly through that presentation, I'm here and available to answer any and all questions. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. Hi, Executive Director Auger. I have a question about pretty much the same question I asked during the Housing Sustainability and Economic Development Committee about issuance of grants and funding. Will that remain with DCS or move to one of these divisions? And I'm looking at like housing choice voucher and other types of housing funding.
Thank you for that question. The Department of Community Services is a public housing agency, so it's a PHA under HUD organization, and the voucher program will remain with DCS. That serves a very low income community, and we have no intention of moving the housing voucher function over to the Department of Land Management. However, where we will continue to work together is potentially leveraging the voucher program to provide project-based vouchers, perhaps in city projects, perhaps in other developments, and then working together collaboratively on, I think there are 3 funds that we have access to. One is the Community Development Block Grant Fund, which is actually currently, unfortunately, at risk based on the new rollout of the Trump administration. And then we have a housing trust fund and a home fund. But those are relatively small. They're difficult to utilize for a couple of reasons. One is once you award them, they've got to be used within a 12-month period. And they also potentially trigger the national NEPA, which is the National Environmental Policy Act, which is expensive to conduct those entitlement investigations. Sometimes, if you've got $1.5 million in funding, it can cost $500,000 to $750,000 to conduct a NEPA. But I think what makes the proposed structure of the department really important is that one of the things that we're trying to do is reduce friction, both in policy and process, and then build momentum so that we have a clear deal flow. Once we have deal flow and we can project what our needs are in the future, then we'll be able to better utilize those types of funds, because we'll have the time to be able to target where we want to deploy them, how we want to deploy them, and what work needs to be done to deploy them. They're small amounts of money, but they're still very important to us, and they're very important in terms of the critical efforts of delivering additional affordable housing. But I think once we get up and running, not this year, maybe not next year, but thereafter, once we've got a good, solid deal flow, I think we'll be able to do a better job with that. I hope that answers your question.
A little bit. So you mentioned that DCS would be like a public housing agency, and then you mentioned project-based vouchers, which public housing agencies also offer, right?
Yes, they do.
So I guess I'm having a hard time as to how the future DHLM will then take that on. I do have a follow-up about the Affordable Housing Strategic Development Program, which is under DCS right now with $5 million as of last year. So will that then be moving under DHLM or staying with DCS?
We're still currently having those conversations with Director Krucke. No decision's been made on that yet.
Okay, and then so for home funds, CDBG funds, all of that will remain with DCS, or you would take them on?
Currently, the Community Development Block Grant Fund is the largest. That's currently managed through the Managing Director's office for the most part.
Okay, got it. Thank you. But it's issued through DCS?
It's issued wherever we can deploy those funds effectively and efficiently. So for instance, in 1 year, in low-income areas, we assisted, I think it was almost a $3 million funding through the Honolulu Fire Department to acquire critical emergency gear for the fire team.
Okay, and then I know that I was here when BFS, when Clean Water Natural Lands Fund moved from BFS to DLM, and so I remember that transition. And with the future DHLM, with a focus on affordable housing and our assets, did you ever consider having BFS take back Clean Water Natural Lands Fund?
I don't think so. I think it's in a good spot now. It's in a good place. We're currently staffing up around that. We've elevated to an office a role within the administration of DHLM, so it'll have a lot of attention. There are currently $35 million worth of, I think that we have 4 transactions currently outstanding, totaling almost $35 million, which we're excited about. I think that's more than we've ever done in a 2-year period in the history of that fund. So we're excited to get those transactions closed. So no, I think we're in a good place there.
Okay, and my last question, I know that you mentioned about how housing and homelessness was scattered through different areas when this current administration came on board. And so I know it was mentioned at that point, but I don't know then where the Homeless Solutions Director will then be housed, still under DCS or with DHLM?
That will remain under DCS. So DCS will focus on homelessness, supportive housing, elderly, and the PHA function.
Okay, understood. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. And I had a couple questions. Really appreciate the presentation. And I know we've had conversations, like I think I entered the discussion thinking a lot of this would be just combined and brought into, say, DCS or Department of Community Services. And I know you kind of answered it for Councilmember Cordero, but maybe just walking us through it again. And I see Deputy Director from DCS here as well. Do we know how many staff are at Department of Community Services?
I do not, but Deputy Director is here.
And it can be an approximation. Because I know, and while he's coming up, so 51 positions it looks like for the new department. Aloha, Deputy Director.
Aloha, Edward Los Banos, Deputy Director, Department of Community Services. To answer your question, how many employees are at Department of Community Services? There's currently about 150 employees across all divisions, so not just the impacted one, which is Community-Based Development Division, but across everybody.
So that's 5 divisions? Or
1, 2,
Community-Based Development,
yes,
Community Assistance, and then OGM or KOI?
and admin.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so and this could be to anybody, so it seems like even with the work pulled out, the new Department of Housing and Land Management is still going to be relatively, I don't want to say small, but concise or, packed together.
Yeah, we think that given the opportunities that we currently have in front of us and the mission that we have in front of us, I think we're right-sized for now. As we continue to do more, naturally, we'll grow. Hopefully that's the ideal. One of the areas that we'll be focused on supremely is using public lands for the development of affordable housing. In that instance, we actually partner with housing developers, which creates capacity for us that's scalable so that we don't have to create civil service positions that may not be, fully utilized during slow times or maybe underutilized during busy times. So that division will be really, really important. And as you know, we have RFQs currently out the street. We had an overwhelming response to the first issuance that we had over 20 proposals for 4 assets. We have another RFQ that not bids, but proposals are due on today, and we're excited about that. So that division will be very key in what we do.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. And I guess just to kind of go through that conversation, so that's why, I mean, I was open to multiple ideas about how the restructuring should go. Because even if, say, it was like, oh, pulling over vouchers, you know, that's CAD, and then it's like, would we also combine CBDD from DC? You know, so it's just like kind of this, you know, assessing how to divide it up isn't perfect. There's, I think, multiple different ways that it could have been done. And I think what I'm hearing from you, and maybe you can just, I'll end on this, is that there's going to be consistent dialogue, collaboration, well, between all the departments, but in particular, understanding that homelessness is not just an isolated issue, that there's going to be needs across, you know, all these different, you know, whether it's acquisition or other types of funds, and then the vouchers, that there'll be a collaborative approach to it.
If the council has any concern about that whatsoever, I'd like to take the opportunity to assuage those concerns. One of the really gratifying aspects of my job is just how collaborative the cabinet is. You know, we look at a project that we're working on in Evile, for instance, and it touches virtually every department. But the departments that we work together most closely with are DCS and the Department of Planning and Permitting. And as I mentioned yesterday, you know, we're currently still in dialogue. We have current ongoing dialogue with Director Takuchi Apuna about a second phase of a reorganization within DPP and DHLM. We have nothing but the highest respect for our colleagues at DPP and what the leadership there has done over the last couple of years. And there's no team within the cabinet that wants to help them more than we do. And so we're actually having discussions about a very significant potential movement that would help to, you know, basically clean up what they do on their side, which is land use, permitting and entitlement. And that could also make the Department of Housing and Land Management even more effective. And that we hope to have more on that when those conversations are ongoing. We can't elaborate because there are people in the jobs that may be effective. There are unit issues, obviously, but there's a lot more going on. There's constant collaboration, and I just want to make that clear. This isn't a one and done. This is a one and two. Let's work together.
I appreciate that. And then to date, it is my understanding, so just because you commented on that, no one's been moved against their will, or there's no folks that are being pulled out of positions with this reorg so far.
Nobody's being put out of a position. It is a reorg, you know, so it is being conducted. But we all, you know, if you look through it, the Department of Housing is being folded in. We have 6 empty positions coming over from DPP. There were 4 new positions that are proposed. Those don't affect anybody. And the 2 positions that work on the Affordable Housing Fund coming over from DCS. And we still left them with 150 employees. So I think they're well staffed.
Perfect. Mahalo. Mahalo, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Kia Aina.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for putting this PowerPoint presentation together. As you can imagine, it's far easier when you're doing a reorg to visually see what you're doing, right? So thank you so much. I'm looking, your PowerPoint is not paginated, but I'm looking first at the resource alignment page with the proposed 17 positions. And this is helpful to me so I can understand where you were pulling from. And then I'm comparing it to the page that you had where you were showing where they're all going, yeah? Again, I can't say what page it is, but it's the page, of course, with the color key codes, yeah? So can I ask, are these planners that are being moved from DPP and DCS, are their jobs commensurate with what they currently doing, or did you create these divisions? Like, for example, it appears that the housing finance division is where a lot of DPP and DCS staffers are going. So again, my question is, are they aligned with what they're currently doing, or did you create these different divisions and they're pivoting to a new Kuleana?
So all the positions in yellow that are being transferred over from DPP are vacant. There's nobody in there. There's no position descriptions or
Okay.
any of that. I think that was one of the things that we probably could have done a better job of calling out, is there's no one there that's affected by that.
Okay, but did you determine, is this where you're envisioning the need is?
Oh, absolutely.
So this Housing Finance Division has no one yet?
There's
What about the DCS positions? You have
There's
two
one
here.
position, the two DCS positions are filled, and they're focused primarily on the Affordable Housing Fund, so there's
Oh, got
complete
it.
alignment there.
Okay, and what do you anticipate that the DPP staffers are going to be doing?
There's no staffers, again, they're
I know,
empty
but
positions.
the ones that you are taking.
Yeah, so we've rewritten well, I don't think their position descriptions did not exist for those FTEs.
Okay.
But we have rewritten those position descriptions. And for instance, as I mentioned, one of those positions will focus primarily on federal fund grant applications.
Oh, got it. Is that the EM8? Is that the top planner?
That's the SR 28, LU 23-08.
Oh, SR 28, got it. Okay, these are important jobs to fill. Are you,
Yes, Councilmember.
are you aggressively soliciting?
Yes, indeed. We're actually recruiting now aggressively. We won't have funding for those positions until July 1st. So today is about, establishing the department. We're in recruitment, and we'll have funding
Okay.
in
And I just
fiscal
need
year.
to ask, I see all of your staff is moving to the policy division. Are you confident with the quality of your staff with regard to doing robust policy? I have to ask that question because this is critically important.
It is I'm looking at my staff because they're here behind me. One staff position is a secretarial position. She'll continue to remain with the group, but the two other staffers will likely be moved. So they're going to transition out as we create civil service positions.
Okay.
They'll be applying for jobs that they're interested in fulfilling.
In other areas of the administration?
correct, yeah.
Okay, and so you're going to be looking to pivot to get some housing policy staff
That's
on
correct.
board. Okay, so thank you so much. I just wanted to flag a policy issue that's going on at the state legislature. You're familiar with the 201H process?
Yes, I am.
I know DPP has been actively involved, as well as myself, opposing efforts by the state legislature to strip the city's responsibilities over that the project. You are aware of what's going on?
I am, Councilmember.
And the conferees, of course, didn't make any changes. And so I'm concerned. And so I'm just encouraging the administration to join with us, who will be asking the governor to veto this measure. Because let me tell you what's going to happen, the practical effects. First of all, it is our job, not HHFDC, who is putting this forth, to safeguard public health and safety. That is what we do. And you have able directors and staff sitting in the back of you and at their offices whose main job is to do that. That is not HHFDC's job. So I'm going to tell you the practical effect if it moves forward. We are going to outright be denying 201H projects because it is not right. And for one of the members over there to tell us that we will be able to comment when the project goes to HHFDC, unacceptable. So I just want to flag that. You're talking about policy? It's a big policy issue. And that's what the practical effect's going to happen. We passed Kuile, which is 1,000 plus units, and the mayor was there. It was a beautiful ceremony, right? And then Waiakoa, another 1,000 plus units. I don't see anybody crying. We did our job. So I'm just asking for your kokoa because that needs to be vetoed. The last thing we need is for 201H projects to be falling to the wayside. We're wasting everybody's time. So just, you have any mana'o on that?
No, thank you, Councilmember, for those comments. We agree. We'll be discussing that with leadership for sure.
But you do understand the value of the 201H process, right?
We absolutely understand the value.
You do appreciate the role of the city administration and the city council in that process, correct?
We appreciate the role of the city administration
Okay,
in
we
the
need your
process.
kokoa.
Thank you, Councilmember.
I think just to follow up, that means we need you to contact the governor. If you agree with us that this should be vetoed. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Valakimoto, followed by Cordero.
Thank you, Chair. Aloha, good afternoon, Director. I was on the same page as Councilmember Kiaina, and thank you for the visual. I appreciate that. It really helps to see where things are being pulled from and where they're going to end up. I did have some questions just logistically, because and I mentioned this when we first met, that it seems like it's a very big department. Where will you guys be housed? Where would all of these, are you in separate buildings, or this is a lot of movement around?
That's a great question. So fortunately, because there are many positions that aren't filled at this time, we're good for now, but there are discussions underway about where we will ultimately live and be housed. We're currently on the third floor of the FMB3. It's likely that we'll remain there, but we're still working through that. There's a lot of Rubik's Cube that goes on to move folks around.
And you mentioned that there are vacancies coming from DPP. The others are not, they're not vacant position, they're not positions. Are you actually moving people into for the other, from the other departments?
The Office of Housing has already been embedded within DLM at FMB3.
I was curious, in this housing policy division, and you have this executive for housing, I'm trying to understand the org chart, and I know that there's a director, you combine now, so DLM is somewhere in here, and so Kat Tashner is now, is she in there, or where?
Yeah, my understanding is the mayor has, I guess, nominated me to be the director of the new Department of Housing and Land Management. Catherine Tashner would be the deputy director. Keith Suzuka would continue to retain a key leadership role. And then the executive for housing would be embedded in the policy division. We discussed that at length during the working group, and particularly with CORE, because under the charter, the mayor has the ability to appoint that position, and we felt that it was important to maintain those powers under the mayor's authority, not only for the existing administration, but for future administration, so that they would have an input into housing policy. It's so important.
I did see that there are 5 appointed positions within this merged department.
I guess the secretarial positions are also appointed for the deputy and the director, which I wasn't even aware of. It was news to me as well. Yeah.
Along the same lines of asking, you mentioned that right now you have certain positions vacant, and the goal is to eventually come together. I think that's my question and maybe concern. How will DHLM balance this coming together, merging the responsibilities of the housing, development, and land transactions without compromising the depth and focus that's required for either, and now all? Is a very all-encompassing department at this point.
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I can imagine that from the outside it can look complicated and confusing, but as you think through it, it's almost like a conveyor belt. We acquire property, and then once we acquire that property, the development team works with developers to build and activate those properties, and the finance team works with the housing development team and the developers to try to find creative ways to finance that property. And then if we end up owning positions of that, maybe we end up managing it into the managing team, right? And the policy kind of floats in the middle of all of that. And for instance, as Councilmember Kiaina mentioned, there are things that pop up all the time around housing. We're currently engaged in a top-down review of housing policies in the city, and we've assembled a working group to do that. And as I mentioned, I think in the January presentation I made, we hope to come back to council by the end of the year with some strong recommendations around that, about how we actually do things around development and what's important, what's working, what's not. So that it all works together pretty seamlessly. But most critically, what it gives us is a deal flow, a transaction flow, so that we can better utilize resources that we have. Right now, it's it's kind of choppy because we have, one thing here and we have one thing there, but there's no organized flow to any of that. This platform will help us do that. And as I mentioned earlier, this is very typical of how developer, owner, managers establish their own businesses. Instead of a policy division, you might see a legislative or lobbying team. And of course, they would have a back of the house team for tax, finance, reporting, et cetera. But we have BFS, so we don't necessarily need that. So it's very typical of what you would find in the private sector, for instance.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing. And it's good to know. I think in theory, it seems wonderful. I wonder how feasible this is. And in your mind, knowing that we still have some vacancies that you're having to fill, are you how long do you think you anticipate before you're running efficiently? We would hope that from day one, but it seems like that's not going to be possible because you're still filling positions.
Yeah, well, day one's tomorrow, and we won't be fully funded until July, right? So that's one thing. And then obviously it takes time to identify really good candidates. We're starting with the top leadership for those divisions, because generally when you hire somebody to lead a division, they can bring other people in under them, but it's still going to take time. It's a process through the city to hire and retain really good people. But we're excited about it. We've got to start somewhere. We've got, as we mentioned, we recently issued RFQs, so we've got 5 deals that are coming through the pipeline now, and we're starting that process. I think I heard that, we're building the plane as we fly it, right?
I think, yeah, and maybe I'm interested to see how this pans out in the end. I know that there's going to be growing pains. It's a merging of offices, but I look forward to that. Hopefully you can come and give us updates and reports about how it's working. Quick question before I turn it back to the chair. The cost, how much more is this going to cost us? You mentioned the budget that has to be passed.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the 2 positions that we're bringing from DCS, they're already budgeted. I think they're funded through the Affordable Housing Fund. The 6 positions that were in DPP, they're already budgeted, so that's coming in. The positions at housing are already budgeted, so there's nothing new. The only thing that was new at the margin, and I think I've mentioned that a couple of times, because we were really trying to, this is a big platform. We go from 34 positions to 51. We want to kind of grow it as we grow. But the only thing that we were really highlighting were 4 new potential positions, and they didn't even make it in the existing budget. So we should be budget neutral this year from that perspective. In terms
But when they are budgeted, what would that look like? You said they're not budgeted this year, but the plan is to have them budgeted.
So we'll come back next year to ask for the budget for those four new positions.
Do you have an estimate of what that would look like?
They didn't make it into, because of the timing of the reorg and the resolution, they didn't make it into this budget cycle.
Okay. Chair, I did have some questions for DCS after next round, if that's okay.
Okay, why don't we go with
Thank you.
Councilmember Cordero, and anybody else who has any questions, then we'll come back to Councilmember Okimoto. Thank you. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you, Chair. Executive Director Alger, first off, I will be presumptive and believe you may have the votes to pass this, but I'm being presumptive because administration was being presumptive that we are going to pass this resolution and introduce this resolution in March of 2025 when the recommendation was provided to the council in I believe, December of 2023. So I was just wondering what happens if council doesn't pass it. And I'm being presumptive that I think you do have the votes. I would say that because it's been very sloppy. And honestly, as a council member, I feel like that we've been pushed into a corner to pass this, as well as putting into the budget to also approve of that budget under DHLM.
Yeah, Councilmember, I appreciate and respect those comments. I do. However, we have been, the mayor's announced this in the State of the City in 2023. He mentioned it again in 2024. We've been working closely with Housing Committee Chair Wire on this process. It's been almost 2 years.
My exact question to you, why are we doing it in March 2025 with 60 days for the council to pass it? We could have had it even at the end of last year and then introduce the budget in March of 2025.
I guess the simple answer to that is because it's important. It's not an issue of trying to jam the council. It's an issue of we have an affordable housing
No, you've
crisis.
jammed the council.
I respect your opinion on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember, or any other questions, council members? Councilmember Okimoto, followed by Councilmember Dos Santos Town.
Mine is for DCS. Tyler, did you have yours for housing?
Okay, do you yield to Councilmember?
Yes, I can yield until the housing department is done. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, please proceed.
One quick question. If we pass this out, the charter is amended, creates the combined department, do you anticipate that we'll need corresponding ordinance changes to further accommodate this?
It's a better question for core, but I don't believe so.
Okay, that's fine. If there's nothing glaring, then I'm not going to worry about it, other than, of course, the Chapter 38.
Not that I'm
revisions, which we're
currently aware of.
considering.
Thank you. Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. I did have a couple of questions for DCS. I think I see Deputy Director here. Aloha, Deputy Director. So in the mayor's reorg resolution, it does state that DCS shall, I think it's item A, develop and administer projects, programs, and plans of action, and manage, operate, and coordinate city activities relating to human services, homelessness, and special needs housing programs. So I'm reading this, and maybe you can clarify, but when I read this, it sounds like DCS will then take over human services for homelessness. So will DCS now be operating core as part of this merger, and you guys taking these responsibilities?
Edward Los Banos, Deputy Director, Department of Community Services. So specific to your question on CORE, the Crisis Outreach Response and Engagement Team, that will remain in HESD, or Emergency Services, for the time being. So that's more of a direct services, has a medical venue. They're more better suited for that program.
What exactly does this mean then? I might have said resolution in this bill. What responsibilities does this mean? This is in, let's see, section 6-302, item A, letter A, under DCS.
What we're trying to define in that one is a split between, because right now I have affordable housing properties in my inventory that are just strictly AMI restricted. There's no wraparound services in them. What we're trying to define in there is a split between the types of housing that DCS would manage, which would have the wraparound services, and what properties would be go into under housing. Because like I said, right now there's an overlap of there, and I think currently it's about half-half. I think I have half of the city's just pure affordable housing program inventory, and then DLM has the other half. But we'll be definitely taking on those folks that have our vulnerable populations that have other needs that wouldn't be housed otherwise if we didn't have these housing opportunities available for them.
So the verbiage, human services, and it has homelessness and special needs housing programs. I guess I'm trying to understand, because that seems broad. And when I read human services, I could see that as functions of what CORE does also.
So in there, other than housing, I have shelters. I have domestic violence shelters. I have folks housing for people with mental health needs that wouldn't have housing otherwise, or don't have anybody else to care for them. I mean, I have a whole different set of housing that are, like I said, vulnerable populations that wouldn't have housing if we didn't exist. But like I said, that's where the human services element comes in, and that we want to strengthen that conduit as far as what we provide compared to what the DLM is going to tackle.
Okay, I'd like to see that further, because I think I feel like it'll get muddled at some point. But thank you for answering, Deputy Director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. And I think those are really good questions. Could you walk through? So you also do like the HUD funded, like ESG. So like the HUD money that goes to homeless service providers, the voucher programs. So, I mean, would you say a lot of the work that DCS currently does is homeless services? I mean, of course, we have EAD, OGM, all the other services, but in terms of the scope of what is provided by the city or through the city, maybe if you could just explain where the homelessness falls in the different city departments. So,
you've heard Director Karki talk about beds of many flavors, but we're also big on successful bedding. So it aligns with our strategy to get folks, people on the street to engage the system, but then to have the resources available so once they're in the system that they don't fall out. A big gap, for example, was the folks outside of Queens, right? So they weren't sick enough to be in the hospital, but they were too sick to go into any shelter. That's why we committed to medical respite. So we'll provide those services and those types of housing in order to get them to the point where they can have success in affordable housing, whether it's through a Section 8 voucher through one of my programs, which isn't a homeless program. Half of the folks in our Section 8 program, I understand, have a home already. It just allows them more flexibility in their budget to support their families, really. So it's not, there is a blurred line there, but there is some wisdom in having DCS retain the Section 8 voucher program. That's because, as the funder, the rent payer, there are some successful models. There are examples of several models where that's separated from the folks that are controlling the housing.
Oh, that's
units,
a really good point.
Individually.
Yeah,
So,
mahalo for that. Hono, you folks still have Hono.
we will still have the housing outreach and navigation for unsheltered persons. We still will manage that program.
Okay.
We count that as one of the emergency shelters.
And then what year was it? Or do we remember when the housing department was broken up? The original one? Is that sorry, whoever knows.
So I've been passed the note that it's 1998.
98.
Correct.
Okay. So appreciate that that knowledge, because I know we're thankful for mayor's work, the administration's work, but really all the folks that have been talking about this for the past 5 or 10 years too, and so definitely excited to see it materialize through the great team that you folks have. So mahalo. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Just a quick question for Mr. Ajay. On April 8th, I made a written request of DLM for a list of city-owned properties. And the reason it's important, I'm asking each of the council members to look at city-owned properties in their districts that we can identify for affordable housing. I got a letter from the managing director in response on April 28th, indicating that the city, DLM, DCS, DPP, DAT, and the chief data officer are working on the list. But I didn't get a timeline on when we can expect that list. Do you have any more information on when we can expect that list?
I don't, Chair. I can certainly follow up on that and get back to you on that. I know
that'd be
is
great. And
important.
again, the idea is that we want to help you build
appreciate
affordable
that.
housing. And under the new amended charter, it shall be the Director of Housing and Land Management shall prepare and maintain a perpetual inventory of city real property interests, including all lands owned, leased, rented, or controlled by the city. And in fact, we are even considering a bill and budget yesterday dealing with how we could streamline the renting of this. But if we don't know what properties we have, it makes it that much more difficult.
We agree, Chair. Just a couple of comments to that. We acknowledge that it's the responsibility of now what will be hopefully the Department of Housing and Land Management. We do have an inventory of property. It's just not really accessible, in the way that we'd like to see it as being accessible. I will say, however, that I reviewed the same list that you have for potential properties that could be developed for the city's inventory. We've identified 10, which will fortunately or unfortunately create a situation where we can build maybe 2,500 units on that land, which is more than we currently can finance. So the point being, we've got a good amount on our plate right now, and a lot of these have been in our inventory for literally decades, and we want to get that cleaned out, so we have an opportunity to do that. While we're working on that, we'll also be working on the database, for sure.
Terrific, thank you. Members, any follow-up questions before Councilmember Okimoto?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Director. I had a quick follow-up to what I was asking about with the vacancies. And I have a second one after that, but I'm not sure if that's you or MD. So I'll ask it, and then whoever feels the inclined to answer it. If you can't fill the positions by the time that this department will then be created, we're saying we're starting, you don't have the positions filled. by the time that you're supposed to be set up, how will you prioritize what your priorities will be between affordable housing, production, land conservation, asset management, if the resource or staff trade-offs arise? Like I said, it sounds really good theoretically, but I'm concerned that I don't know how it's going to be done. So if you could answer that.
Certainly. So when we designed the platform, we didn't believe that we were going to be able to staff everybody up immediately. We currently have, we're all just slightly a little bit overworked, right? We have a lot on our plate. We have a great team in place currently to handle, the workload that's in front of us. We're going to be very busy, but that's what we signed up for. There's excitement around what we're doing. I can tell you that. We've had people approach us for positions that they know are going to be available. We're hopeful that we're going to be successful in attracting and retaining the right folks to occupy those positions and move us forward. But if we have to, if we have to slow down because we can't fill the positions, it is what it is. But we're going to keep driving forward and trying to make progress because, as I mentioned, the issue is just too critical for us right now. I hope that answers the question.
It sounds like it's exciting, but I'm trying to figure out where your priorities would be, knowing the gaps or pukas that you have. So it sounds like you're just going to go for it and see where everything ends up.
No, we've just closed, for instance, $32 million in private activity bonds. We have another $120 million transaction that will close in July. That's fine. We've just issued RFQs for 5 transactions, and we've gotten great response to those back. So we'll now be negotiating ground leases and development agreements on those transactions, and that's moving pretty smoothly. We have the Affordable Housing Fund. We have an intent to award $8 million grant, and we recently received proposals for a $5 million grant. There'll be multiple awards that are anticipated from that, and that's moving just fine. We hope to continue to work with development partners. We have a great staff that's currently managing the inventory that we have around properties, that affordable housing properties. So, on the Clean Water and Natural Lands Fund, we might come back to council next year requesting a couple of additional positions because that's a $100 million fund in terms of the assets that we currently have under management. But so far, so good. It's manageable and not overwhelmed. We're reasonably overwhelmed, I guess I should say. But
okay, thank you.
I don't think we'll miss anything if that's the...
There's a hope there, and I'm a hopeful person, but I've been told multiple times that.
Yeah, and we have other
hopeful is always the
resources that
best
we can
plan.
draw on, throughout this.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my final question, in placing housing, finance, and development functions inside the same department, managing the city land transactions, are there concerns that this could create perceived or actual conflicts of interest?
Not at all. They're very complementary. You can't build if you can't finance. If you're not building anything, there's nothing to finance, right? So it all works together. I don't see a conflict of interest at all. We haven't been advised or nobody's highlighted that as being a concern.
Okay, thank you.
They're very, very complementary.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We do have one registered testifier, Angela Melody Young.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, in strong support of the resolution. And I think it's just very interesting to learn during this process of the goals of the state and the counties in terms of building and just helping people to live their lives. And so although DHHL and the Hawaiian communities has nothing to do with this topic, I think the build out and acquisition of properties and what was introduced, the legislation, House Bill 576 relating to the restrictions on the transfer of real property under Chapter 201H could be utilized to help the development of some of the expedited planning processes because the thought process is that assuming if the goal is to expedite exemptions, then if there are legislations to help prioritize Hawaiian communities, then perhaps it can also help prioritize some of the county's goals as well. Just by learning from each other's offices, procedures, and policies, and working well together to have a happy community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any other testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have no other testifiers.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion on the motion to amend. Seeing none, any objections or reservations to the amendment? Seeing none, Resolution 25-86 has been amended to the posted FD1. Now we're in discussion on the posted FD1. Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Councilmember Cordero,
No.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam,
Aye.
Councilmember Kiaina,
Aye.
Councilmember Nishimoto, Councilmember Okimoto,
Reservations.
Councilmember Talba,
Excused.
Councilmember Tupola,
Excused.
Councilmember Wire,
Aye.
Chair Waters.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 6 ayes, 1 no, 2 members are absent.
Thank you. Resolution 25-86 FD1 has been adopted. Thank you, members. Moving to page 4, Committee on the Whole. There are no items for the Committee on the Whole or executive session. Adjournment. Vice Chair Wire.
I move that the meeting stand adjourned until Wednesday, May 14, 2025 at 10 a.m.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any objections? Noting none. Council stands adjourned until Wednesday, May 14th, 2025 at 10 a.m. Thank you, members.